The following program does not have a normal intro because I was really too busy smoothing other things over to get it done. So, Ori? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Viewers Discretion. I'm your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Lawgic. Oh my gosh, what is that? I'm hearing stuff. I'm hearing myself. That's not supposed to be like that. That's craziness. How did that happen? I'm coming on my own phone. That's what she said. Okay, so I'm such a kid sometimes. All right, let's start that one over. I hope your weekend's been going really well. Mine, thank God, has been exceptional. Had my two sons home, my two daughters. My oldest two are AWOL, but all in all, nice peaceful Shabbos, and I hope that your weekend was phenomenal as well. I had a couple of things that I was thinking about covering tonight. There's really a couple of things. I've discovered this channel, which I'm like, this guy's a freaking genius. And I'm gonna just share it with you. He calls himself Hoe Math. And oh my god, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I think this guy gets it. This guy really gets it. And I probably could spend days watching his stuff. Days. And sharing it with you and breaking it down with you. It's not exactly the sort of thing. It's the sort of thing I've been shying away from for the last couple of years. Really. Oh my gosh, what was that? That was loud. Yeah, this is his channel over here. I'll share it with you because otherwise you don't know what I'm talking about. And that's kind of stupid. Share screen. What's up? Something's happening. Something's happening. Yeah, this is a channel here, Hoe Math. And I was just like, I'm just watching like his work, and I'm like, this guy's really good. He's really good at what he does. He's really good at what he does. This guy is really good at breaking down like relationships and what makes people tick and differences between men and women and how they approach relationships. And I was like, my God, this guy's really good. It's so good that I can't. I was like, I don't even know how much I can add to him. That's how good he is. That's how good he is. And I don't say that about very many folk. So I was thinking about like sharing a couple of those vids with you and breaking down like what he was saying there, because I think that a lot of people do have issues and struggling with relationships and trying to figure out like where they fit societally, culturally, and things of that nature. And I really wanted to talk about something of that nature, like start covering that more and more. And then someone in my local suggested this Abba and Preach video, which was going after Camelot. Now I've seen a few Abba and Preach videos. I stopped watching them a while ago because I thought they were kind of douchebags. I'm not going to kid you. And here they are going after my friend Camelot. I started watching it, and it made me start thinking about a conversation that I had this week with a friend of mine, which was something along the lines of, I don't know if I still have friends. And I don't mean that in like a sad way. I'm just like, I'm talking just like in a realistic type of way, because when I was inviting people to celebrate I'm not talking about the online world, because there's different kinds of friends. There's a lot of different kinds of friends, a lot of different kinds of friends. And I was actually talking to a bunch of friends about the fact that like I really like these people. Like I respect them. I respect their opinion. I enjoy hanging with them. I just won't. And I'm like, I don't know if that's, I don't know what that means. Anyway, so then I saw this video and I was like, you know what? This should be an interesting conversation. So I wanted to watch this video with you and really assess with you in 2023, do people still need friends? Do people still need friends? And get your thoughts on it. We're going to watch this video together. and I'll see if their assessment of him is accurate, harsh, whatever. I had not watched this video yet. I saw like three minutes of it, and I was like, yeah, I'll just watch it live with you guys. So there you go. Abba Preach. So let's get it on.
Someone said, "You think it's sad?"
I don't like the whole later on thing because
you got. I came to this living.
Okay.
I put the man.
I might get a.
But you have to learn to compromise.
No, I don't have to. Not for that.
So disclaimer, I might get a little emotional. I might not. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But when I was growing up, man, I was a loser. First things first, guys. Serious video today. I was a loser. I was overweight, which doesn't.
I was too, by the way. When I was a kid, I was a loser. I had friends, but I was a loser. Like, I was very geeky. I was very awkward, and I was filled with insecurities.
Just make you a loser, like, but in my school it did. And you know, I was that kid that sat at the table with 3 other people that were also like the super
Valiant, my friend. How are you? I will send you. I'm going to send you a link. I know I wasn't sure if you were like offering to join, and it's not like a. I'm not twisting you around, but I will send you a link anyway, just because I can, and because I like hanging with you. You're kind of cool. You certainly have like a crazy, awesome voice. I was talking to Ron Comey yesterday, who also has. He has a son who's engaged. Who got engaged last week. I have a daughter got engaged, and he has a son who got engaged. And interestingly, like, so there was an announcement in our synagogue about both wishing mazel tov to each of us, which that's never happened before. We were both celebrating. So I sent you a link. Anyway, so the topic tonight is basically, do we still need friends in 2023? And here is Abba Preach breaking down a video done by Camelot, or some clip of Camelot, and assessing his take about his state of his friendships.
For rejects, that was me. And there's nothing wrong with that.
The audio sounds weird for me too, not just for you.
That actually is a good thing for me, because I met my friends. That's where I met my friends. My lifetime friends is where I met at that table. It was like 4 or 5 people, and it expanded and, you know, got slimmer over time. But
this is really annoying, the audio. The audio is very, very annoying, isn't it? It's annoying. Is it all like this? Is it me?
It is, I don't know. I think
it's them.
People, and expanded and, you know, got slimmer over time. But it was those people. And
is this sped up? I don't think it was. No, it's normal speed.
We did everything together. All my whole life. Like from kindergarten up, we did everything together. And that,
okay, so I have friends that go back 40 years. Like, seriously, 35 years. Like, I have one friend who goes back 40 years, but he's not someone who I ever like hang out with. Like, he came to like the party last week. I have other friends for a couple of decades who, like, you know, and any one of them, if I needed something from them, I know they'd be there. You know what I'm saying? It's just on a day-to-day basis, or even like a month-to-month basis, my interaction with them will be exceedingly limited.
That was really cool. That was a really awesome thing that happened in my life. But something...
This is what you guys are saying, slow it down a little bit. And I'm telling you right now, I didn't do this. This is normal speed, how Abba and Preach are presenting it. They probably sped him up because they wanted to keep the video length down overall, and they wanted to get more content from him, and then criticize it.
It happened a little bit later. When I got to my late 20s, and a lot of you can probably attest to this in the comments, let me know, but when I got to my late 20s, those friends disappeared. And it's not because they were like, I hate you, Cody. It's nothing like that. It's, you know, life happens. You know, people get married, they move across the country. They were just gone. So, you know the story about me anyway. I mean, if you follow my channel, I got...
By the way, I did see this, and I thank you for sharing it with me. I think you were the one who shared it with me. Someone else shared it with me. That Liz McGill, who was one of the people who appeared at the congressional hearing for schools last week, and famously basically answered Elise Stefanik by saying, when pressed, asking if students are chanting for genocide, is that a violation of your policies? And they said it depends on context. It depends on context. And I mean, just imagine for a second if the genocide they were chanting for was of Black people or Asians or LGBT, which is not really genocide, but they would call it genocide, or Muslims. Would anybody start giving answers and qualms, dancing around saying, depends on context, depends on context? No one would say that. No one would say such a thing. It sounds ridiculous. So Lisa McGill ended up giving a whole clarification. Where in the clarification, she never apologized for the position that she expressed, but basically, said like, that would be a violation. That would be. I'm withdrawing, saying that requires context. Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. So, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with the Harvard president, MIT president. It's really interesting. Interesting. But I thank you for calling to my attention.
Got married. I still hung out with my friends, but I got married, and she became my best friend. And in 2016, she didn't want to be my friend anymore. So we were together about 8 years, and then she left. So I was totally alone, and my friends were pretty much gone. This was at the point where they were disappearing and moving away and stuff like that. And over the last couple of years, I've came to accept this. I thought to myself, hey, like when you get to this age, you just don't have friends anymore. And it's kind of a hard realization to come to, but it just seemed normal. Everybody my age seems the same. And that just seems how it is nowadays.
And what's interesting is that, like, when I saw my daughter's friends like leaving at their engagement party, I was thinking to myself, she's never going to see him again. I mean, she'll see him like between now and the wedding, but it's like what ends up happening is life ends up kicking in, and your spouse frequently will become your best friend. And that's just reality. But I don't know, in my circumstance, I sort of felt like I always had friends who had different utilities. And it sounds cold phrasing it that way, but there's different things I was looking for in different relationships that I had. And that there are certain parts to me which would be seeking, let's say, ability to joke around. Others would be seeking friends who, let's say, would get me more spiritually motivated. Others would be like friends who shared common interests. Others would be friends who I felt like if I was engaging in philosophical conversations, the nature of which, like this one, that they could help jog my brain and relate to what I'm trying to express or explore, and give feedback in ways that I felt were conducive and and enjoyable. Like conversations like this are conversations I would have with only a certain select group of. If I had to list the ambit of my friends, there's probably 2 or 3 that I might have a conversation of this nature with, out of the dozens of people who I would happily categorize as a friend. But the rest of them, I would never even think of bringing this conversation up. It would be like, they'd look at me like, they'd be like, okay, that was a weird conversation. So it's like, in that sense, it's almost like they're like, so I sort of end up categorizing internally without actually expressing it, but just sort of being like, okay, this is a friend for that. If I wanted to go to a Yank game with someone, there's a list of, out of all those people who I call my ambit of friends, there's, these 8 people who I would choose. I like to hang out at a Yankee game with. Amongst, and this is not just friends, by the way, this is even with respect to relatives. If I wanted to go to, if I was thinking that I wanted to someone I can like really unload on, if I'm feeling like bothered by something, there's like maybe 2 people, and they're not part of the 8. They're unlike, I don't know.
Is it entirely that bad to have no friends? No.
But I don't look at them as that. To me, that doesn't make them bad friends. It just means like they have That's the nature of my relationship with this one versus that one. And I never looked at that as being a bad thing. And I realized that I always had different kinds of friends, even going back to when I was in high school. There were friends who were like, you know, if it was like more of like a party type of atmosphere, it was like, okay, I definitely want these guys. And if it was more of like, you know, it was a different kind of atmosphere, it'd be a completely different crew. If your spouse is not your best friend, you are destiny. See, this is an interesting thing when you talk about like what that really depends a lot on what your objective is in your marriage, doesn't it? Doesn't it?
No, I mean it gives you time to focus on yourself. But would you need that support?
Yeah, it is.
All right, let's see. I didn't hear what he said. Yeah.
Everybody my age seems the same. And that just seems how it is nowadays. And is it entirely that bad to have no friends? No. I mean it gives you time to focus on yourself. But would you need that support?
Yeah, it is. I think maybe for some people, like very few of you thrive. For other people, I think it's just a lot of cope, personally. And I'll say this also. You know what it makes me think of? You remember them? I don't need no man.
Few moments later.
See, now that I think it's an interesting comment he's saying that the reason you'd say that is because it's cope. I don't know. I'm at a stage now where I feel less and less of a need for a friend. Like a friend that I can like be like, this is someone I'm going to talk to regularly. There was stages where like there were people I'd call like every day, and then it's just like I don't need to do that. I think that might be true from many people. Like I tell you this much, like I've never felt lonely in the sense of like, oh, I don't have any friends. I never felt that way. Like certainly not in the last 4 decades. So it's like, who's Cody? I don't know Cody.
I love him. It's like these women who I don't mean no man. Then they get a man and they're like they realize
what they lost.
Yeah, I'll say this.
I don't know what the hell that means. I don't know what that means because I think that it's not like he's saying he's never had friends. In that sense, what I think they're saying here makes no sense at all.
I thought I didn't need family. So I wasn't close to my family for a long period of my life. And now being closer to my mom and some of my family members now, it's like been life-changing. You don't realize you need something until you really have it. And you like you and there are times of need and you have people to rely on. They're there for you for special moments. You share things like there's going to be a moment.
So the special moment thing, I think I agree with that. It's like when like so like I was talking about like last week I was hosting a party for my whatchamacallit, not the online thing that I did. I'm talking about like the real life party. And that's when I started actually thinking about this whole friend thing. And I was like, yeah, it's nice to share in the moment with people who you like and appreciate. And I was very glad that a handful of my friends were able to make it on very short notice. And it changes the nature of the entire thing. If you're just with people who like, you sort of feel like they're obligated or whatever, that's a completely different experience than if it's like friends who you sort of, joking around with and just, chilling with. But I have one friend, my husband had this whole friend group, but he couldn't really call any of them in an emergency as people, but no one that keeps in touch. I wish he did have a good friend. Okay. So the question is why? And I think a lot of this also comes down to the nature of relationship that you have with your significant other, whether it's a girlfriend or a spouse or whatever, that it depends on the nature of that relationship. Like I had a relationship once where like that significant other well, let's go a little further.
Moment where you have a flash and you be like, oh, this is why people need community. This whole idea that we're excelling in solitary confinement and by ourselves is bullshit. Like I said, there might be exceptions to the rule, but the people who I see generally thrive in life are people who are surrounded by people that love them, not folks who are by themselves.
See, now when you talk about surrounded by people who love them, see, here's a different thing. There's a whole different. This is now changing the nature, the context of the entire conversation, which this is one of the distinctions based on a life stage that I have compared to, let's say, Camelot, where it's like, I have children who are and a spouse who it's like, I'm not looking at them as friends, even though I understand a lot of you look at, as a spouse, as a best friend and stuff like that. But, and I genuinely like being around all of them. Like, I love being around them. Like when they come home, if they're not living at home, it's like, oh, awesome, they're here. It's like, in that sense, perhaps that supplants the whole friend thing, because you definitely need human connection. That I would definitely agree with. I think every one of us we need genuine human connection, not just human connection that you have of this, I'm talking to you, or so. I think you need a human connection. I think every one of us needs that. That's part of our humanity, is that we need to have someone rather than just working and chilling playing video games. So in that sense, I agree with them. That you definitely need to have people who you feel a connection to if you're going to have genuine happiness. I think otherwise you feel empty. So if that's what they're critical of Camelot on, I think that's a fair criticism. I think that is a fair criticism. If like there's like no one from his family, whether that's siblings or whomever, who he's able to have any sort of relationship with. In that case, yeah, I definitely think that leaves you feeling just very isolated and very and frustrated.
And I mean, almost every study I've ever seen says like you're going to die earlier. You're going to feel less fulfillment and less happiness. You're much more likely to take your own life. Like, I want to say that because I see a lot of people saying this kind of stuff, and I don't want folks at my home watching and be like, yeah, be by yourself with no friends and nobody. It's amazing. I don't want you to feel bad about the circumstance where you don't have people around you. But I also don't want to lie to you and say those circumstances are good.
Yeah, but I just didn't have it. I'm now 31 years old, guys. I'm 31. I do almost everything myself. I do my YouTube, the channel you watch. That's pretty much my entire life. Please subscribe. It's my entire life, guys. Oh my God. But I learned something really recently that I didn't think I would get to experience. When I started YouTube, it was for fun, obviously. And when it started taking off, that was pretty cool. But something came of it that I never thought would ever come of it. My viewers. And I know a lot of people are different, but my viewers would message me and talk to me. And I have people that have been in my community for a long time. And they've become, real friends. But now, granted, that's the point of this whole video, is the fact that I didn't consider it that way. They were the people from my YouTube community, and the people in my actual life. I don't have any friends in real life. So I talk to these people on Discord. I talk to these people on Instagram. I talk to these people on Twitter. And I talk to them regularly, Well, recently we had a meetup, guys. We went to Orlando with 16 people, maybe, all from my channel. And that's about probably the first day of this meetup with some truly fan-damtastic people. About a day into this meetup, maybe about a day into it, I learned something that inadvertently that I didn't think I would learn. And I learned that these people that chose to come to this get together with me
I have no idea where he's going. I have no idea where he's going with this.
I learned that they were my real friends.
Now, this is an interesting.
I'm sorry.
This is an interesting thing, because you look at like online relationships, and I think that online relationships can blossom into something that's like a genuine friendship. I think most online relationships, I think few of them. The only way you have a real relationship is if you actually open up to someone about like things that are real to you. That's the only way you can ever. And if that person, still likes and respects you, then that's the only way that you can actually establish that type of relationship. Now, I'll tell you this much: as a content creator, we as content creators almost have to sort of, when we come into this sphere, decide the nature of relationships that we will allow with those of you who follow us. Because it's a very weird dynamic, which Nick pretty aptly referred to as that our spouses are in a polyamorous relationship with the entire world. Because the objective of anyone who's doing what I'm doing is that basically you want everyone in the world to watch you and to love you. I mean, that's essentially what we're doing. There's sort of like that goal to be appreciated, and the more attachment that people feel, the more commitment they're going to have to your channel and spread it. And, so there is that objective. On the other hand, we have a life. So those of us who have, like, let's say, a familial type have familial bonds are forced to sort of create barriers, which is an interesting dynamic, because on the one hand, creating barrier is the last thing that any content creator wants to do, in the sense of, you want everyone to love you. On the other hand, creating barriers is necessary because, well, A, if you become really popular, you just can't reach out to all those people. And B, it's a matter of respect for the relationships that you have with your family or your significant other, where it's like, no, I'm not going to be DMing some member of the opposite gender because, and creating some sort of personal bond with them, even though that might ultimately, be part of my work, in the sense that it's a respectful relationship that you have. So it's different, though, for someone like Camelot, who I think is more capable of actually sharing of himself, assuming that I'm going to start with a given, an assumption based on my interactions with him and what I've seen, where I think that someone like Camelot is better able, in a certain sense, to actually establish those types of bonds in a very real sense with people who are in his online community, because he doesn't have those prior commitments to other people whom he loves and who love him. So I think that does enable him to actually form those types of. I'm not saying that he has formed them. He's saying that he has. I'm simply saying that it's possible for him to form those types of relationships. But if to form a relationship is the limited contact that I have, well, I look at many of you, especially those who've been around for a while, as like people like I really appreciate and respect and admire, and I enjoy the back and forth. I don't. It's to qualify that as friend. It's like I think it gets qualified as online friend. I think that's the way. I think that's the way to qualify it. I'm being real. I'm just. That's the reality. That's the reality of the beast. Like a handful of you who may be watching right now actually have like my phone number, okay? Because like I've established different relationships or whatever. So yeah, when I say this guy is someone I consider a friend, I mean, in loose terms, yeah. I've never like met him. I'll give you an example, okay? So like Audio Joe, okay? Joe audio guy. I mean, this is a guy who like would bend over backwards to help me with my channel. Like really. And I go back with him from the first live streams I've ever done. Okay. And he'll like sit there and he'll like DM me and try to help me out if he sees like I'm having like a problem with the show, like a friend, like a genuine friend who I've never met. And I never really thought about like, would I qualify him as a friend? I don't know. I mean, I don't tend to quantify like relationships like that. I mean, I guess so. If Joe's watching now, he's probably like, this is the weirdest conversation I've ever seen. Yeah, it's just sort of like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know if a label actually really matters. Like, does it change? Like, does establishing someone's and assigning a label actually change the nature of the relationship? I don't know. It's very complex. This is a very complex conversation. The guy who doesn't want to get married and gets dates on Tinder, he doesn't know how to relate to people in real life. I don't think. Yeah. I mean, that he does seem like he's a player, right? And you tend to assume that they tend to be, sharks don't really travel in school so much. You're my top 50% of Jews only because the IDF women are. Aside from that, you're my favorite. Well, you haven't seen my pinups yet, so.
As touching as this is, does this sound like somebody who sounds like they don't need nobody in their life?
No, I don't think he's saying he needs no one in his life. I didn't take that from what he's saying. And it is genuinely touching. Like, I don't know why you would be like hating him on that. And I also don't think that there's anything wrong with him establishing online friendships from people who are in his community. I don't understand that. Like, I'm not even sure where these dudes are going with this.
That they thriving by themselves? I'm just saying, I've never watched this video, but I didn't know it would turn out like this. But this is what I'm talking about. When you live without something you think you find, and then it hits you, and you have like a...
Yeah, but what he's saying is that he's like, that he appreciates the nature of the relationships that he's established through his community. And sometimes you don't really think about it. And then when you, if he realizes it, like he has this epiphany like he had there, like that's... I mean, I guess that's consistent with you saying like you actually always needed it. You just didn't admit it, but you're saying it like a cope. And what I'm saying is, no, I don't think it's a cope. I think it's a matter of him like never really even thinking about it. You sort of like shelve that and don't like even, it's like you're just doing your thing and you're not like really thinking about it. And then when you recognize that there are people who actually care about you, who actually, genuinely love you as a person, like that, it sort of it can create an overwhelming emotion, which is not something that's necessarily a reflection that you were coping all along until you had that before you had that epiphany. It's just a matter of like, wow, it genuinely moves you. Superman, if he wasn't scared of green rocks, okay, give me a heads up if you ever want me on the Miyozash Achi. I'd be more than happy. What is Miyozash Achi? I don't know what that's supposed to be. Miyozash Achi. I'd be more than happy. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be Hebrew, but I'm not recognizing what you're trying to say, brother. McCray, to be a chauffeur. It's the difference between young and old. I'm older, and back in my day, online communications were to be viewed as sus, and only people who could not relate to people one-on-one. Now it's normal, which bothers me a little bit. And I do think that it's that the fact that so many of our relationships are online these days, I think is it makes it harder to feel a real connection. It definitely makes it, when you have a geographical distance or you've never met the person because your whole nature relationship is online, I think that makes it harder to actually feel the same way. There's just something different when you're in a room with someone where you know what their scent is like, where you can like, most of these online relationships, I mean, look, I guess there's Zoom and stuff like that of that nature, but I'm saying most of them are just, texting and chat or something like that. It's like you don't really feel as if you're with the person. So even if that's the nature of all of your relationships, I think that you end up feeling that, I think creates loneliness. It's an interesting dichotomy where it's like having those online relationships, if that's exclusively what you have, it makes you feel, I think, that much more frustrated that you can't actually touch the person. You can't be around someone who you consider to be a friend, especially if you don't have other real friends in your life. And I think that people who are looking to create online friendships, I think that they have more of I think they recognize their need for friendships. My point is this: I think it's very possible for a lot of people to sort of go into a zone for very extended periods of time where they don't feel like they really need a friend. And it's not a cope, it's not anything. It's like they just sort of, I think they need to have some relationships to have genuine happiness, but I don't know that they have to be your traditional type of friend the way we tend to use the word.
Wave of emotions. I'm happy for him because, like, you don't expect videos like this to seemingly go well. But I think there's a lot of people suffering who haven't had this revelation yet, and some who unfortunately may never have it, and that makes me sad.
I'm fresh, I'm fit, I'm moisturized, and monetized.
When people look at you, they judge you. They judge you on your height. They judge you on your looks. They judge you on your smell.
This is a commercial?
I believe they judge you on your
Are we getting a commercial here?
Now look, I'm not talking about putting it on foundation and doing it. It comes with instructions.
All right, this is a commercial.
Price, plus the ability to pause or cancel at any point during their membership. Because T.H. Henley's sponsoring today's video, you get 30%.
Get yourself set.
Are you
Get
too?
it now.
Let's make sure your skin shine like pearls.
Yo.
Okay.
I've always said for years now that I don't have friends, and it's just crazy to me. I left Orlando last week, and I got home, and I was just laying there, and I realized that I have friends, real friends, and that's something I didn't expect to happen. And I told you I was gonna probably get emotional, and I actually thought I was strong enough to hold it back, but I'm a big old fat bitch, and I just can't help
it. That is pretty funny. I'm sorry, Camelot. I love you, brother, but that's kind of funny. That's kind of funny. I've tried to do that on the internet a few times. I wish some were still around, and glad some aren't. The internet is a slippery slope. I will tell you this. Some people so I mean, as far as like just trying like coming back to what I was talking about before, as far as like feeling like people are friends, like I'm going to tell you this, that especially those who are there from the beginning, when we're talking about a relationship that a creator has with his fan base. So especially those who were there from the earliest starts, where he was able to recognize every person in his chat. So it's like or someone who you talk to, you sort of interact with, when they disappear, you definitely notice it. And there's a certain void you feel. Like one of my earliest mods is someone I haven't seen in like a year and a half, and I'm like, and it's not like I'm not resentful. It's more a matter of like me thinking to myself, like, it'd be cool if he was like, still around, and I hope he's doing well. Like, I genuinely hope, his life is going really awesome for him. But, so is that something that's like a friendship? I don't even know. It's hard to classify when you're talking about friends. It's this, especially where I readily admit that I have friends of different natures. Like, it's very hard for me to classify and say, is that something that's a friend? Yeah, good luck with that. I don't know what to tell you other than good luck with that. Good luck with that. I actually wasn't thinking of him, but he used to hang around the show, and he and he doesn't anymore. And I'll tell you right now, I'm like, all right, look, either my content doesn't work for him or the time doesn't work for him, or one of them isn't working, and it is what it is. you know, I only wish him well. I hope things go great for him. I never have any resentment towards someone who like just stops hanging around in my chat or whatever. Like I always just assume that it's like, all right, look, either it's, the two possibilities are the time doesn't work for him or the content isn't working for him. That's basically, those are the only two possibilities that I see. So, and either way, like I don't feel any sort of resentment at all. I'm just sort of like, all right, that's the nature of the way things work in this industry.
He got me with that one. He got me with that one.
Dude.
He got me with that one. That was pretty good.
Big old fat bitch. Come down. Fuck.
I'm happy for
Be
you.
easy on your shit.
I'm happy, man. Let out them tears. Go ahead, cry it
I
out.
thought you was about to say, let out them bitch tears.
No. Yeah, let all that fat bitchness get out.
Fat bitch tears. Yeah. It's like, it's okay, man.
Yeah.
It's okay, and I get it. The realization is really fucked up, though. I think he put an X on that shit. He went like, man, it's not gonna happen, and then fucking hits you away. I got friends.
He did that, Lonnie Williams.
I don't even know what the heck they're talking about anymore. What are you talking? What is their content?
I didn't.
Remember that Lonnie from The Real?
Of course I do. Of course, all that. He did that shit without the sass.
Yes.
He did all that shit without the
Without
sass.
being loud and obnoxious.
Yeah.
Broadcasting. What was she saying?
What do you mean?
Lonnie.
I don't need no man.
See, I don't think this is true, Sherry. I don't think that's true. I don't think your friends all betray you. I'm positive that's not true. I'm positive that's not true. It's a matter of it's a matter of making sure that people who you feel close enough to that you call a friend and qualify as a friend, that you let them impact you enough, that level of relationship. You need, I think that we all need to have a lot of discretion before allowing someone close enough to us that they can actually hurt us, that we recognize that we see the quality of the human that they are. Because a real friend would never hurt you. So, you know, and there's so many different ways of forming friendships. You know, a lot of times friendships is like a geography thing. Either they live next door, they work close to you, or whatever, and they're just like the most normal or most similar to you in that environment. So they end up becoming, you know, your friend, but that doesn't mean necessarily that they're a quality person. And sometimes we all need to, you know, especially when we're younger, you need to have those social relationships in order to, you know, in order to get through whatever you're dealing with here. Well, one guy who I will always consider a friend is this guy right here.
How are you, sir?
I am great. I was talking about you with Envy yesterday. The two of them, Ron Coleman and I were talking yesterday. He was telling me how he's become a lot closer to you in WDW, and I said, I don't even get the crossover there. Like, what relationship do you have? Like, how? So he's like, I don't know. They just can't. He asked me to join, and like, and I was on their thing, and I was just like hanging with them, and the two of us started talking about your speaking voice, which is just the conversation switched to conversation about your speaking voice, and he was raving about your pipes, and he said you have, and then he's complimenting me. He's like, he said, Joe, you have a really good speaking voice. And I said,
do.
Thank you. And what I said was, you know, I've heard that compliment before I ever did this. Like, people have complimented my speaking voice, but I kind of compare it to a singing voice, where it's like if you have a relative who's like a pretty good singer, you know, you sit there and you're like, wow, such a beautiful voice. Like, it's really, really nice. But then, like, when you actually hear them sing something next to like a professional singer singing it, and you're just like, Yeah, okay, that's a really good. Like you can recognize the difference at that point where it's like, yeah, that's not the same ballpark, and that's what I feel like is my speaking voice versus yours. Like, if no one hears you, like then like, oh yeah, Joe's got a really great speaking voice, but then when they hear you, they're like, yeah, that's Joe. You're not professional.
Look, you know, there's a thing
I'm
about.
not saying that. I'm joking about having the envy. I actually,
No, I
I
got
look
you.
at you and I admire your speaking voice.
No, look, there's, I guess, like anything in this life, there is the objective and there is the subjective, right? So people can make comments on so and so has a great speaking voice, and they hear the timbre and the register of a voice, and they think, you know, they make judgments based on that. Then there's the subjective aspects, which I think are far more important. And that is that people want to listen to you. I mean, you have to have a good voice. You have to be able to communicate in an objective manner regardless. But you've got to have stuff to say to boil it down succinctly. And you always, Joe, you always have a lot of great stuff to say, a lot of great insight, which I think is what makes your show so much fun and so great, and why I've always just loved listening in. Even if I can't chime in and chat or I got stuff going on, there's always family
you
stuff.
sometimes do the same things I do. Like
Yes.
I'll be like sitting there in the sense of what I'm saying is this. Sometimes I'll watch someone who I like and I'll be like, yeah, I don't want to comment, because if I comment, all of a sudden it becomes like a thing. It's like, and it's like, I'd rather just I'm not in the mood right now for like a thing, and I'll just like, even though I might be watching the chat and think to myself, oh man, I want to I have something to say here, but I'm like,
I'm in my car.
Open my mouth. Yeah,
I'm in my car like 2 to 3 hours on average every night, dropping off kids, picking up kids, doing dad stuff, and I'm listening to. If I'm not listening to, you know, just a music channel or something like that, I'm usually listening to YouTube. There's a lot of shows that I used to participate in chat frequently that I don't as much anymore, and part of me feels bad as like a YouTube friend for not participating as much as I used to.
Right.
But I just can't. But at the same time, I'm listening at least passively, and I'm like you. You know, do I chime in right now? And I do try to say like, hey, y'all, what's up? You know, good to see everybody tonight. And then I'm just, and people just, I know, the Tug jokes are out there. And I was just on, look, I was just on with Tug on a live show 30 minutes ago. I was on Flashcast.
Awesome.
So we're not the same guy. I know people love to say it. If I ever actually move up to where Tug lives, which is a good possibility in the next 5 years, for tax reasons, if nothing else, then it'll really get bad. You know, that Tug and I are the same guy. We're not. I love to joke. Tug is awesome. I can never be Tug, but I appreciate the compliments.
No, I think you and Tug have similar quality voices. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So I want to ask you your thoughts. Have you been watching this? What I've been watching here, this thing with Preach and Abba breaking down Camelot's video about Friends. Did you just join, or you just now?
I saw a little bit earlier. I saw you kind of going through it. I don't know a lot of the backstory because I try not to get engaged in some of the Twitter machinations, but there are some things out there that become so interesting that I can't avoid. But I'm willing to listen and learn and make commentary on, because hey, look, that's the spice of life.
It is. Anyway, let me get a couple of these, and then we'll jump back to the video. So, Allegan News is coming a Taylor Perry movie. I'm not sure. Oh, he's talking about the
Tyler Perry.
Video. Yeah. Everyone join Joe's Locals. I posted this vid there. That's goodlogic.locals.com. Goodlogic.locals.com. VR speaking voice makes Joe's voice run away. It does. Run away. So, anyhow, let's get back into this thing here, which is the angle I wanted. This is the one I wanted. That's the thing. All right. So what they're breaking down here is Camelot was basically saying how he's been pretty much a loner, didn't really need friends, and then he went to a meetup in Orlando and met 16 people there, and he realized that they are genuinely friends of his, like from his community. So they're sort of breaking down his, and he started breaking down crying when he came to that, when he was expressing that epiphany that he had in Orlando. So Preacher Nabos are reacting to that.
Oh no, I don't. And then it went like.
So they're comparing him to a woman who says, "I don't need no man," and then when and that's a cope, and that he was just coping. So that's what they're sort of.
You can have your own. We have our own. I am self-sufficient.
No, you got your
I don't need a man. I don't need a man. But guess what? I want you, and that's the difference.
The thing that's different about him is that it's not about him being better. He's still a man.
Yeah.
But it's the loyalty that I like.
Oh.
You know what I mean? It's like I can leave.
Oh.
And he's there for me. One friend, I was talking to her, and she's
I
like,
can leave?
Oh, man, and I
know
have
what
my
you're talking
friends,
about
and-
immediately.
Yeah. So,
I think they're fixing on the fact that she's saying, "I don't need no man," but all of a sudden now she's breaking down, talking about her man now that she's got one. I think that's the point. That
Yeah, I mean, this is. I hate this kind of crap. This is what passes nowadays for what societal evolution.
Right.
The I don't need no man thing.
Yeah.
The problem, of course, with this mantra is that these same type of women are the ones that have spent now, 4-5 decades destroying men, destroying manhood, destroying family.
Yep.
And then they wonder why the men of their generation are useless, by and large. I mean, look, this doesn't take rocket science to figure it out. And I just watched Oppenheimer tonight, so I'm now an expert because I stayed at a Holiday Inn and I watched Oppenheimer. No, but I mean, the point is that, I mean, it's silly to watch this kind of stuff. So then when this guy does a video and he talks about how, oh, I met people and people that I didn't know that live around me, and he gets a pass because I feel like I could date this guy, but I could leave him and he'd still be there. What was that comment? That's what men want. They want an unfaithful woman who will leave him. And then, they'll still be sitting around like a lost puppy, sucking their thumb, waiting for her to come back. Like, what the hell? I just...
what you're talking about, I don't know if you've ever heard of this channel, which I was actually touting at the start of this show, called Hoe Math. Have you ever heard of this channel?
No.
Yeah. So
Hoe Math?
Yeah.
Okay.
This guy's a freaking genius.
Like HOMATH, Hoe Math.
This is him right here.
Okay.
I'll show you. This is him right here. Hoe Math. Okay.
Hoe Math. Oh, okay. All right. That's
okay.
All right.
And what he does is he breaks down like relationships and what people say versus what they really mean, and how they interact with each other, and what motivates women toward men and what motivates men toward women, and the different things that play and in their different scales. And one of the things that there's a video that I was watching, I'm not sure, I had actually saved a whole bunch of them that I was thinking about pulling up here, but one of them that he talks about is how over the last several decades, so women have worked so hard to and been gifted by governments to a certain degree, and different programs with different ways of having them promoted in getting into good colleges and in good jobs and stuff of that nature. So now they're at a place where they have feel a certain equality status. But what women are looking for is a man who seems superior to them. So in that sense, they've almost put themselves in a position where it's like they feel like, well, I don't need a guy, whatever, but they feel, and they're constantly longing for something that's higher than them. But it's hard to find that because it's so much harder to find that because they've been lifted up into being this thing that is that there's 12 men like that in the entire country. So it's like, what do you want? It's like, now that you got what you were fighting for, and to some degree, look, not all cases, but in some degree, it's you sort of got lifted up there. All of a sudden you feel like, okay, now I need something even higher. Well, okay, you're competing with hundreds of thousands or millions of other women who are all vying for those same 50 dudes. It's like, good luck to you.
Yeah.
Like, good luck. And then you want him to be faithful when it's like, and he also breaks down how men, there's so many good videos here. I was like, man, I could just watch this all day. But like, he was breaking down how men, especially men who can have their choice of pretty much any woman that they want, because they are, good looking and successful. Like, and the reason that so many of them are dogs is because they end up taking women who are not as high quality as them, because they just want volume. At a certain point, it's like, it's a matter of like, and he ascribes it to being almost evolutionary, that for a woman, she knows she can only carry one guy's seed at a time, so she's looking for that top seed that she can ultimately get her hands on. And we're talking about in the single world. I'm not talking about once people have already married. We're talking about in the dating scene. But for the dude, he's on an evolutionary perspective, it's like, I don't need to have only one. I can be spreading myself around, and there are a lot of takers here who are very happy for me to spread myself around.
No matter what society tells us, society ultimately can never override basic human nature, basic instinct, right? Women, and this is not intended to be an insult, this is just reality. Mm-hmm. Women want a strong man.
Oh, yeah.
They want a man that can provide for them. They want a man that can be a father, be a husband. And men want a woman who is compassionate, loving, nurturing, so on and so forth. And the problem is, in 2023 and all the way back for several decades, is that women have conflated this erroneously with women having, women, that being a weakness for women. That's not the whole point. The way that God built humanity, the way that nature intended, whether you believe in God out there in the audience or not, is fine. The way nature biologically intended, psychologically intended, was for there to be a perfect marriage of men and women, that men's strengths would be complemented by the strengths of women. The weaknesses of men and the weaknesses of women would come together to make a perfect union, that the strengths of one gender would be offset by the weaknesses and strengths of the other. That's the way it's supposed to work, right? And what's hilarious, Joe, is I've been saying this for years, like since I was in college. I joked about this 20, 30 years ago. I mean, even as a teenager, that's when I got into politics. And I said, isn't it funny that all of the, neo-feminism out there in this day and age, doing what they're trying to do to men, and, protesting and starting activism and all this based on what they want. What is always hilarious to me, Joe, is that they're saying, we don't need no man, but we want to lobby the government to replace all of the functions that men used to provide for us.
Right.
Right? We used to have husbands and men that would provide us child care, income, health care benefits, insurance, things like this. Financial and social security, right? And I don't mean Social Security in the sense of Social Security pensions from the U.S. government.
No.
I just mean
genuine security.
Benefit, right. Yeah. They're like, we don't need no man for that. We can be independent, while at the same time, they petition their state, local, and federal governments to give them actual benefits to replace everything they used to get traditionally from men. It's like, well, wait, how much of an independent woman are you? How much of a, how much of this is, we don't need no man crap? Well, no, you don't need no man, because now you're going to ask men to pay taxes to fund the federal government or your state government and then give you those benefits through some government benefit. Yeah. It's the same damn thing. You're adding an extra step to the process. And this is not to say that women can't be successful. My wife is a business owner. My wife is a very successful music teacher. She runs a private music school. Mm-hmm. She's talented. She's capable. She's, she loves what she does. Women can do it. What I'm complaining about is the women out there that says, I don't need a man. I don't want to do this. I can be my own independent person, but I need some government assistance to do it. I'm sorry. You just nullified your own damn argument, and it's stupid.
You just shot yourself in the foot with that.
Yes.
Yeah. So now I'm so tempted to actually watch one of these videos with you, because his work is so good. It is so good. I'm sitting there and I was just like, I don't know. I was like, I feel guilty like that. I'd be like almost like stealing from him.
Of course, a man.
But if I have you here with me, I sort of feel as if you and I can like sort of break down like what he's saying here. He talks about zone of madness. So one of his more popular videos is a map of relationship types to help relieve dating confusion. And it's so amazing the way he breaks down the different types of guys and men and women. And it's just an astonishing 20 minutes that he does. Debbie says, I've never been more glad to be 60 years old than now. My growing up life was never as effed up as people describe it today. Trad values can't beat it, in my opinion. I agree with you. Double secret cult, I'm in, Joe. Oh yeah, I got like
double secret probation.
Yeah. Jackals Terra Argentum says that's an insane view that I blame science fiction for perpetrating. Mankind has evolved since then. No, we haven't. No, we haven't. And if we did, we'd probably go extinct. This is true. This is very, very true. All right, let me share with you some of the genius of this guy here, because he's
it's funny, impressive. You know what? After millennia, after millions of years, Joe, of human evolution, it still takes, surprisingly enough, folks, it still takes a man and a woman to procreate the human species and move forward and evolve.
Yeah.
Call me crazy and old-fashioned and an old man.
It's nature or God giving you a message there.
Shit still works the way it does. What do you know? So,
all right, let's check this out. We'll see how far we make it.
Okay, this is the new zones chart. It is replacing the old zones chart. This one is pretty much fully fleshed out.
You're looping the wrong screen.
You find something that I missed, please let me know, but I think I got it all.
All of a sudden, everything went nuts on me.
This is a chart that is divided into the way that men categorize women and the way that women categorize men.
I will say StreamYard has been goofy
about your looks,
recently.
Your personality. We subtract how much availability you're giving to other men, and then
while you're waiting, folks, for StreamYard technical difficulties to resolve, hey, let me do my spiel here. Welcome to the Good Lawgic Show. Please make sure that you've hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this sucker out on the social medias like Twitter and Facebook. We appreciate you guys. Even if you still have a MySpace account out there, that's fine too. But if you haven't hit, look, there's 600 people watching right now. We've got 249 likes. Surely we can get this to 500 likes in short order. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything to do it. We're not stumping for money, but you know what? That's the most important thing that YouTube looks at from an algorithmic standpoint as the mathematical guy here, I guess. So Joe's got to go fix some stuff, so I guess I will kind of hang in. So, folks, thanks for joining us, but do hit that thumbs up button. We really appreciate you. StreamYard, I will tell you, for the last couple of weeks, has been really, really weird. Really super weird. I do a Sunday show at 6 p.m. Eastern every week, and let me tell you what, the last 2 weeks, StreamYard has been giving me fits, absolute fits. And I love StreamYard. Sometimes they have growing pains, but just help us out tonight. Be a little bit patient. We're getting there.
No,
so-
I know what happened. For one reason or another, I got a loose connection on my second screen, so everything went nuts.
I've had that
because
happen.
basically it shot everything that was on screen 2 over into screen 1.
Are
and
you
that's
on a
why-
PC or Mac?
I'm on a PC.
Okay. So are are all the screens hooked in HDMI, or do you have any Thunderbolt connections?
I don't know what the heck you're even saying now.
Okay, sorry. I'm I'm a tech nerd. I'm sorry. I'm a total tech dork. Like, look, when Ron comes on the show, when Ron Coleman out there for the audience, when Ron is like a regular guest now on Sundays. Like every Sunday, I'm like hitting Ron up. Come on, bro. Let's go. Let's go. So and Ron is such a cool dude.
He's great.
I love Ron to death. Ron has zero tech skills.
Oh, he's
He's
that's not his
none.
thing.
None.
That's not his thing. Yeah.
And yet, no, like his microphone on my Sunday show last week, and then he went on WDW Pro's show Thursday. His microphone was just balling out both times. We had so much static, like loud, horrible noise coming through. And God bless him, like it wasn't his fault. He was just having tech issues. And he's just one of he doesn't know how to fix it, you know? So it's just, look, it's like my mother, you know, I spend at least an hour on the phone each week with my mom trying to help her do something on her iPad. So it's just,
yeah,
it is what it is.
I sometimes will stream with my dad, and it's just like, oh, help me. Oh, help me. Oh, Lord, help me. Oh, Lord, help me.
I love your dad. Your dad is awesome. I'm so sorry. Oh, by the way, I will say this. Congratulations on the impending nuptials of your lovely daughter. I wish I could have made it Tuesday night. I just
that's okay.
This time of year it's crazy. Like I said, my wife runs a music school. We had a concert last night, a concert tonight. She has concerts tomorrow with the students of the music school. So it's just bang 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 bang.
You got stuff going on.
So
I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Debbie's pointing out Valiant Joe doesn't know the answer to these tech questions. I'm surprised he knew PC versus Mac. Just kidding, Joe. Interesting. Disney devs recently, right? Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Debbie. No horn for you for that one. That was not cool. Actually, I would have given you the horn. I tried giving the horn, but I wasn't locked into my screen here. But so you didn't. So I actually heard it, but no one else did. But here, give you a little chauffeur. Let me dig that thing up that we started watching before everything went haywire on us.
That's all right. All right, folks, we're at 300 likes. There's got to be another 200 people out there at least of the 600 watching that haven't hit the like button yet. I know you can get this done. Thank you. Joe won't do it. I will. That's fine. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for.
They are interested in dating.
Data matters. Perspective also matters.
Okay. You know what? I remember this one being particularly good. Let's start with this. We're going to start with this one. I know that I was going to show you a different one. It was a little bit longer. This is a short that they had that I saw, and I was like, this guy's so good. That's not good. This is better. All right, let's start this over.
And we have data to show that more women than men are single because they simply cannot find someone they are interested in dating.
Data matters. Perspective also matters. It can make data look different. So are men not good enough, or are women too picky? It's a matter of perspective.
Now that's his chart that he frequently will come back to, where he basically is saying that women who are a 1, right? Like this is on a look scale. So women who are a 1 are going to be looking for they're going to be looking for a 4, like minimum. And like a woman who's a 1, 2, or 3 is going to be looking for a 4 minimum. And they basically tend to look at least 3 numbers up. And that like a woman who's a 4 is looking all the way up as high as a 10. And that if they, as soon as when they spot, they know nothing about him. That's what they're sort of like attuned to, as opposed to not even looking at something. And that whereas a guy who's a 4, he would be okay with someone who's like a 3 or a 2 or a 1. Like that's like basically that's part of his thing. So
a matter of perspective, as long as you include the facts. Let's see how she does.
A world where more and more men are single because women do not want to date them is a world that's very dangerous for women.
So something bad has happened to women, but not men.
College-educated women are the group most likely to say they are single because they can't find someone that meets their expectations.
So educated women have it worse. Still no mention of anything here.
And I can hear the men in my comments now saying, see, it's women's fault. They have too high of expectations.
Okay, so men are suffering from unreasonable standards.
But let me remind you that women have always entered into marriages with the expectation that it is going to materially improve their lives.
Oh, no, never mind. No material.
You needed husband.
He's so funny. He is so funny. He's great. And he's like just sort of like taking notes on what she's saying and then using her own words to basically explain what she actually means.
More educated, we are stable on our own.
Okay, so women did a good thing. They're out there working hard and beating the pants off of men, all by themselves.
Right.
If you don't financially need a husband or a partner, you can say, I'm not going to get a partner until I find one that's emotionally supportive, emotionally intelligent.
Okay, and what do you give back?
Doesn't need me to be his therapist and his mom.
Okay.
So you're not going to be emotionally supportive.
There
He
we
needs to be
go.
emotionally supportive, but you're not going to be emotionally supportive.
I go keep going because this is what I want to wreck. This is the problem with all. Well, let me back that up. This is the problem with women of this younger generation. And again, I want to preface this so everybody in the audience understands. I am a father of 2 girls. My oldest is 18. She's in college. My second daughter is 16, coming up out of high school. So, and I worry about them so much because of...
You worry about them becoming this?
Yes, I worry about this because, like most teenage girls, they watch this kind of crap on TikTok. Now, fortunately, they're my kids, so they've heard dad for a while, and they can fend this off. But this is the kind of trash that is destroying modern society, no doubt. Keep going.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I just want to preface
all
it.
the childcare, all the housework.
Those complaints sound familiar.
And men
Do they?
these expectations are just simply too much.
Well, to be honest, it sounds like you wanted equal rights, no obstacles between you and success, and when you got it, you still weren't making the same amount of money, and you didn't like that, so you had the government write a bunch of laws to preferentially put you
Yes!
in employment, so you don't need men anymore.
New lawsuit against Disney for this.
This is exactly what you just said.
Now you're getting no material benefit, especially if you went to college, so now you don't need men except for emotional
And you're in
support.
debt for that
Don't-
college degree.
Yeah, so you don't need men except for emotional support, but you don't want to give them emotional support. So what the heck
Right.
does a man need you for?
Believe
That's
anything-
exactly it.
What do they need you for? Is it basically coitus? Is that what it is? They just
That's
need you
it.
for coitus?
She's out here extolling all of the reasons that men don't want to bother with her and her ilk's shit anymore.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
But then if a man actually acts like that, he wants her exclusively for coitus, then he's a dog. He's a terrible human being because he's not sufficiently emotionally
There's
supportive.
no winning. This is the problem. She exhibits the modern TikTok woman to a T. And that is that we want men to be there to do anything we want them to do as our lapdogs, but we don't want to give anything back. But now we don't understand why men don't want us. Why can't we get a man who is a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the scale that they have on the screen? Well, that's why. The men who are in the upper echelon of earning power, the men out there who are still the old guard gentlemen, the chivalrous men, guess what, ladies? We will never marry women like this.
No.
And if I can be a little bit crass here, some of us might take you in the bedroom and hit it.
But never put a ring on it.
You ain't getting a ring.
Yeah.
You are not getting a ring because we don't want this. If you want the men who can provide for you and create a family environment, we want the women who will be supportive of us also in return.
See,
And
this is how
we
it gets
don't want to
twisted.
have conversations about it.
This is how it gets twisted. Don't let women get an education because they might understand what makes a quality man. No, women don't need an education to learn what makes a quality man. That's the point. You're not going to school to learn what makes a quality man. The point is
that's human nature.
Yeah.
That should be brought up by your family, your religion, your upbringing, right? That's not part of an education in terms of a formal college degree or schooling. That should be part of your cultural background.
But the other thing is this. I think women think that their education or their earning power is something that makes them higher value in a social scale, where most men, where it doesn't have that function. If anything, it has the exact opposite, because most men do want to be earning more than a woman. I mean, that's a common thing.
Men do not want to be in competition with their wives.
And exactly.
Period.
And they're not looking to you as a source of income. So the fact that you're making money is not making you more attractive to them, because it's okay. So you're making money. If anything, that makes you a competitive threat to them if you're actually really good at making money. So in that case, and the fact that you're making money is not helping them. It's not making them happier. So what they're left with basically is you just have higher demands, and what you're offering is not something that they want. It's almost like someone who's like, I have this amazing skill that I can turn wood into rubber. Well, you know what? No one gives a damn about your skill. No one cares about it, and you're sitting here thinking that this makes you something more valuable, and it's like no one cares. And because of it, your demands are higher, and you're much more demanding.
Yeah, Joe, let me give the folks out there a great example of this, and let me take this to the extreme to make this very clear for your audience. I've been in the financial planning industry for over 20 years. I'm a stockbroker. I'm an insurance guy. I work with clients of scales that they make $50,000 to $100,000 a year, and I have clients that make millions per year and everything in between. I bring that up because one of the favorite examples for this kind of discussion that I always love to dive into from a psychological standpoint, just to examine. I have two clients who are married, and they're both very successful, highly skilled physicians. Now, the wife is a physician who makes about $300,000 a year. And down here where I live in Southeast Louisiana, in the New Orleans area, that's a very, very good income. That might not be a whole lot in New York, but that's a whole lot down here in Louisiana.
That's a very comfortable living even here in New York.
It is. She is married to another physician who is almost 20 years her senior. He's a physician that makes about 3 times what she makes. And it's not because he's a man, but it's because he has 30 years senior or 20 years senior her experience in the industry, and he's also a specialist. He's a cardiologist. She's a general practitioner. Let's say that. Yeah. They both work in hospital. They both work in clinic. If she were to stop working tomorrow, their lifestyle substantially would not change. He would still have an income as a physician, as a cardiologist, to more than adequately provide for their family, their $1 million home, plus, all this kind of stuff. That's fine. She works because she loves what she does. They have children together. She can still raise them. Yes, they have a nanny and stuff like that to help out, but they're not in competition with one another, right? She's still, at the end of the day, she loves being a mom. She wants to be a mom. She's not passing her kid off somewhere else. She still ultimately, she loves being a mom, and she's a mom first. She's still the housekeeper, even though she's a very successful, high-earning physician. But her husband can more than adequately provide for all their financial needs. There's a difference. When I see things like this with this chick, what she's looking for is, I want a man who is just going to basically go to sleep, let me do whatever the hell I want, and when I come home at night, provide me all the emotional support that I want and need. Let me do whatever the hell I want to do and just be there, but still has to pay half the rent. I'm like, no, this is not what men want. At all.
And this is the point I want to make. And Katie, you're correct. It's not exclusively that women are the problem. I agree with you 100% on that. It's definitely not that at all. I think that men today, I think that young men today are not trained in how to be the type of men that most women are looking for. I think that's a large part of the problem, that they're emotionally stunted by the way that they're being raised. I think a lot of people. But the point that I think that I'm trying to make, and I feel like Valiant is trying to make, is this: you sort of need to look at when women are trying to assess, like, how as far as attaining a man, you sort of ask yourself this: what makes a woman more appealing to a man? Is it her having a beautiful income, which is more appealing to a man, a really fat income, or that she will genuinely care about him and actually be emotionally supportive even when he's at his weakest, and not look down at him for that?
The second part. Yeah.
So it's obvious that, especially a man who's like a successful man, a man who she's looking to attain and doesn't need her finances, is clearly going to be more appreciative and more desirous in a relationship of a woman who's actually going to be emotionally supportive, compared to her being able to put big bucks on the table. I mean, and it's not even close. Like, the big bucks is like a useless thing to him, especially if he's in that stratosphere that she's looking at. So it's almost like that's what I meant when I said, a woman who has a skill of turning wood into rubber. Yeah, I could have said a skill being able to make beautiful floral arrangements. It's like, dudes aren't looking for that. We don't need that. It's not something that it's like, oh wow, I know that she's kind of a witch, but did you see that floral arrangement she made there? Oh my god, I gotta have. No dude ever said that. No one ever said that. That's my point. I'm not looking to pick on you, Katie. I only pulled your comment up because I thought your comment was fair, and it was it was a fair assessment. My point was simply that in fixating on what people can do to try and make and put themselves in a position where they're able to actually find something closer to what they're looking for. So in that case, maybe fixating on what the other side is valuing is of great benefit to you, rather than thinking that you're going to decide for them what's of value to them. And I don't mean you individually, Katie. I'm saying for anyone in general.
Gotcha.
Right. So let's go a little further here.
Escalating retaliation, and also in legislative and policy decisions.
Oh, how could I forget? So let's recap. You wanted equality, and you got it, but you still made less money, so you had the government fix it. So
Exactly.
Men are not good for anything except emotional support, which they do not deserve. And the men who don't like this are dangerous. How can they not see that bad things only happen to you, despite all of your hard work paving roads and fighting wars? So yeah, I think this is a little much. Pause.
We still need men to actually do all the hard shit, but you know what? Fuck men. I mean, that's the problem with this.
Yeah.
That's the problem with these particular types of women. And it's so depressing. And they sit there and they wonder why they can't find a good man anymore, in their words. They wonder why they're not happy anymore. You know why? Because this isn't what nature fucking intended for you. That's why. It's not a matter of weakness. It's not a matter of you're inferior to men because you don't work or earn the same money as a man does. And it doesn't mean that you staying at home, and this is what was so insulting. I had a dear friend of mine that I consider, like, I was an only child. I'll put it that way first. I have a dear friend of mine that I always considered a little sister. I love her to death to this day. And this is part of being an only child. You kind of adopt siblings as you grow up in life. because you didn't grow up with siblings. She's very liberal. And I remember I'm going back like almost probably 15, 20 years now. She and I had a conversation, and, she was very, very, pro-modern feminist, fifth wave feminist, whatever the hell they're in. And I'm like, look, that's fine. But you can't, because the conversation began with her feeling bad for, in her own words, women that would stay home and raise children. I'm like, look, this is where y'all, meaning the fifth wave feminists, the liberals out there, this is where y'all are screwing the pooch. You want to talk about women being independent and women making their own choices and women being this and that. And I'm like, I'm fine with all of that. If my daughters wanted to grow up, and if my oldest daughter decided, I don't want to get married, I don't want to have kids, I just want to do my own thing, I want to teach art for the rest of my life, that's what she's in college for. I'm like, look, honey, you're an adult. That's your choice. You can do that. That's fine. The problem is that when you cross the divide and you go out, like my friend did years ago, and, it's like when you start denigrating the women that make different choices than you do, because there are a lot of women out there that are perfectly happy and they actually want to just be moms and wives. They want to run a household. They want to raise kids. And that's a beautiful thing. That's just as important as going out and creating their own career, if not arguably, traditionally, more important. You can't piss on those women for making that decision. They're making that free choice on their own.
It's funny that you're saying this.
That's the problem I have with modern feminism, because it's like,
exactly,
you're not really a feminist. If you're all about women making their own choices, then you have to respect the choices of women out there who just want to be traditional moms and wives. That's cool too.
Yeah. I actually wrote this 15 years ago when I was under an alias. I wrote this lengthy thing, which was basically attacking modern wave, third wave feminism for exactly this problem, that you're not even representing all of your constituents anymore. Then how on earth are you still a movement? If you're attacking the trad wife mother, in that case, you're basically and you're spitting on them as being lesser thans or failures to womankind.
Sick.
Then you're basically you're saying that they don't have a choice to not go to work, and you're condemning women towards something that you think is right for you. Maybe it's right for you, maybe it's not right for you, but it's basically saying that those women don't matter, they don't count, and they're a poor representation of women.
That's it.
And you're now attacking your own, or the people you're supposed to be, standing up for, and that's when you're a failure. At that point in time, you become a failure, and you're not something that's helping society. You're only harming society. So,
that's just it. My mother, for 40 years, she worked in a profession that was one of the most financially lucrative and successful professions still to this day. Mm-hmm. And so much so that my 16-year-old, my middle child, my 16-year-old daughter, she wants to follow in her Grammy's, my mother's footsteps. My mother was a nurse anesthetist for 40 years. I mean, nurse anesthetists get out of college nowadays, and they start at like $250,000 a year. I mean, that's how lucrative. My 16-year-old, who has very expensive tastes, she's like, that's what I want to do. I want to do what Grammy did. Because she wants to be a nurse, but she's like, but Grammy was a really well-paid nurse. I'm like, go for it. I'm like, you will never be without a job. You'll always be overpaid for the rest of your life based on your skill set. Go for it. And she's a straight A honor roll student. She has been since she was in 5th grade. So I'm proud of her for that. I wanted to do that. But the point is that she learned that from my mom, who did that, who was a working woman, who was in nursing school, who got out of Charity Hospital in New Orleans in the 70s. And there's a reason that they send nurses and doctors and trauma surgeons from all over the country to Charity Hospital for the last 50 years to train. Because my mother was one of those, like a lot of people in New Orleans that work in the medical profession, that have to learn how to deal with knife and gunshot wounds every night, multiple times. It's like, that's New Orleans. That was my mother. So it's like, she was successful, but she was still a mom. She was still a mom. She did her thing, but she worked not because, like, I want to be a strong, independent woman, but my mother was just one of those that she loved to work and help people.
She loved to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, she loved to do it.
But your point is that was her choice. That was
exactly. She didn't have to do it. My father was very successful in his own right. She didn't have to do what she did. So, I mean, this is the kind of thing. But this idea that I don't need no... My mother, like, that generation never had a thought enter their mind where I don't need no man. No, my mother wanted a husband. Like every woman of her generation, they wanted to be married. They wanted to make a family. They wanted to have children. But that didn't necessarily preclude them from also wanting to have a worthwhile career where they could do what they wanted to do, and in my mother's case, help people. I look forward to my children doing the same thing. They want to go into careers. They want to work. They want to have lucrative careers. I encourage that. While at the same time, it's like, when you get to that point in life, your husband, your children, your family in general, put that first, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what you got to do.
All right, so I found this video that whatchamacallit that I was touting before. Let me come back to it. Hopefully, we're not going to have the same type of cluster that I had before. Almost.
And is going to have.
Let's go back to.
And is going to have some.
All right.
Okay, this is the new zones chart. It is replacing the old zones chart. This one is pretty much fully fleshed out as usual. If you can find something that I missed, please let me know, but I think I got it all. This is a chart that is divided into the way that men categorize women and the way that women categorize men. Men have one set of values.
And what I would urge all of you who are watching, who may be looking for a relationship, to look at this not as a critique of like bashing you, but of like actually trying to provide suggestions as to like better understand how to attain what you're looking for, whether you're a man or a woman. So, and if you understand how the other side thinks, I think that's helpful in helping you actually, recognize how they're looking at you, which is really what this is ultimately about.
Men add up what we think about your looks, your personality. We subtract how much availability you're giving to other men. And then here I drew a cabinet, which is the male version of the galaxy, because there are other things that can make women more and less valuable to men, but it's not very much. These many, many things can make a big difference, a big impact on how women like men. But over here, it's not that big of an impact. So this is basically the way that men decide how much they value you. And then once we decide from the best I can get to the worst I'll take, where we're going to put you, you kind of end up in one of these boxes, and it can be pretty hard to leave. In order to do that, you would have to either improve your looks or your personality or get rid of the male attention that you have in your life. And you're not going to really be able to do it with this. Isn't
that an interesting thing though, that he's saying men deduct based on the amount of attention gained from other men, where it's like which is, I think it's the opposite for women. Women look at a guy who is
Yes.
popular with women and look at that as like, it's almost like validation that they've chosen someone who's high value.
Yes.
Men look at a woman who's got a lot of men around and say like, I don't need the competition, or it's like she's gonna
exactly
be or whatever it is.
That's just it. Men see slut in that case. Yeah. And I'm not trying to be
that doesn't mean you
crass
are
about that.
It
No,
doesn't mean
exactly.
you are. It's just how men will naturally categorize you.
This is a very cold and calculated mathematical breakdown of how men think. That being said, it's very accurate. And it's not based on design. This is based on nature. This is actually how men think, and this is it, folks. I mean, this is really how it does break down. He's right. He really is right.
Let me just get to a couple of these comments from Jackals. It says, I don't have a six-figure earning college brainwashed wife. I have a best friend I built a life and business with and raised 4 kids with. Their standards are causing an epidemic of loneliness and despair. And you have to worry for that next generation. That he also says there's this cabal of middle-aged, upper middle-class harpies who are pushing all this horror on the world, total social terrorists. And that's why we're trying. That's why it's important to expose them. So let's go forward here.
This isn't cutting it for us. This is a big lesson that a lot of women need to learn. You can't overcome lack in this department by wearing a t-shirt that he likes or picking up a hobby that he likes. That's why it's a cabinet. It's very, very small. It makes a small impact. If you're
we're making money. Making money is, that's not part of looks or personality. Making a 7-figure income is not something that men are like, ooh, she's wealthy. Like, that's just not. And if he is a guy like that, it's almost certainly a man that the nature of that man is not the type of nature that a woman who's earning 7 figures will be looking for.
Right.
So, so in that sense, that's never going to fit anyway.
Cabinet is perfect for the man that you want. It might give you half a point to a point. This is really most of it. Women, on the other hand, they have 2 sets of criteria that they evaluate men on. They have good guy stuff and bad boy stuff. And this is one of the reasons that there's so much confusion in our culture about what women want, because they say they want good guy things and then they actually go with men who have bad boy things. But the truth is they want both. And you don't have to choose. In our language, we say I'm a good guy or I'm a bad boy or I'm good or I'm bad or this is, but really you can be both of these things. And in order to be both of these things, you have to maximize your physical attractiveness, face, body, height, voice, all the things that you can do, lose weight, get muscle, maximize it.
See, you got the voice. You're good to go. You're good to go, Valiant.
You know what? I've been with the same woman for 25 years now, so I'm kind of done.
Okay.
So,
right.
yeah.
Oh, well.
Maximize your masculinity, dominance, power, confidence, smoothness, which is, I'll explain that later. Smoothness is basically how well you understand women. If you can approach a woman and you know what it is that she responds to, she's going to go, oh, you understand women. You're smooth. That requires some more unpacking. And women also respond to dark triad traits. This is a big difference between men and women. Men do not need women to have any evil stuff, any bad boy stuff. We don't need bad girls. Some guys.
This is how I bagged my wife, by the way. All of this. Yeah, exactly. So
Valiant's got stories.
there we go.
Men in general don't need girls to be bad. Women need men to be at least somewhat bad. You got to be dangerous. You have to have the ability to be dangerous, not necessarily go to jail, but you have to be capable of it, and that will boost your bad boy score, which is what you really want. It's better to be all bad and no good than it is to be all good and no bad, because then you end up in the friend zone. So both.
If you have no bad to you,
I
you
would
end
look
up in the friend
as a
zone.
high school kid. I was very popular with the girls in high school when I was in high school, but I was always in the
And
friend
when you were in
zone.
college also? Oh, no, I'm just kidding. No.
Always in the friend zone. And still to this day, a lot of them are still friends. And I do love them to death. But yeah, I mean, like, as I got older,
You recognize the need for the bad boy.
yeah, I mean, there was a thing there. And when Mrs. Renegade and I went out on our first date 25 years ago, November 28th, 1998, that was it. So,
There we go.
yeah.
These speech and thought bubbles are arranged the same way. The higher up you go, the more it is based in love, which is supportive, public, monogamous, and emotional. And the farther down you go, the less love there's going to be, and the more lust, which is going to be opportunistic, secret, multiple partners at many times, and impulsive.
Hoe.
So, of course, a man is going to have lust for a keeper. Of course he is, because that means that he likes the way she looks. But he's going to have a lot of love for her. Way down here, he's going to have no love at all, and it's going to be entirely a lust-based relationship. Sleepers in the middle, where we have what women call situationships, that's where there's some level of emotional connection, but it's not really enough to be the one and only. You're kind of in a middle zone, and the man will say things like, I don't know where I'm going to be in 3 weeks, like I don't know what my life is. Yes, we do. We do know what our life is. We do know where we're going.
Yes, we do.
That's the whole like
Yes.
non-commitment guy.
We've already dropped one in you, and we're done, and we need to get rid of you for the women.
But it could
That's
be that
the
you wanna
problem.
sort of, I think in Sleepers he's talking about those he wants to keep around, but like doesn't really want to like marry. I think that's
Well,
I think that's what he's
okay,
putting in
that's
Sleepers.
the point, though, Joe. Is that this whole chart, while it's incredibly brilliant and illuminating, you realize that this chart 3 generations ago had no merit. Why? Because women were the inherent balance against men. Women didn't engage in the shit.
They were
Women
the
weren't.
gatekeepers.
Yes, they were the gatekeepers. Women weren't trying to behave like men like they are now. That's the fucking problem.
Yeah.
And that it's like God intended this for a reason. Yes, men are, they're guttural, they're natural, they want to go after that sexual instinct. That's part of their core. Women traditionally have been the stopgap against that. Women were supposed to be the more, refined, the more demure in that position. And but now it's like we've taught women to behave like men sexually.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And that's why this chart now exists. And that's why this chart is now accurate, because women are not what women have been for millennia up to this point, up until the last, say, 40 years.
Yeah, it's true.
We just kind of want to wait for someone who we're definitely going to put in here. You got to stop listening to these things. So for women, avoiding getting into these bad relationships is a lot easier than it is for men to avoid getting in these bad relationships. You just have to know how he feels about your looks, your personality, and your exposure to other men and the stuff you have in common. Figure out how much he likes you and judge it by how much investment he's giving you. How much of his time and energy and money and whatever it is that you value, because every woman values different kinds of investment. But if you value something and he's not giving it to you, because this is the higher you go, the more investment, the lower you go, the less investment. If he's not giving you the investment that you want, that's a very clear signal that you're not here. And you either have to change something to get here, or you have to leave and find another guy who likes you. So just really quick for men, Keepers is obviously my one and only. This is the one woman that we care about the most. Sleepers is, these are girls who we like and we're attracted to them. And as you can see, this is the public-private line. There are some times that sleeper relationships enter into the public arena and will go out with you, but we still aren't really committed and we kind of waffle a little. And then there are some times where sleeper relationships are like, let's just keep this between us. Just come over at midnight, right? Once you get down into sweepers, this is usually...
I think a lot of women are like not happy with this whole chart thing. And what I would ask from you is just point out where he's wrong. Just point out where he's wrong. Just, instead of just saying like this is garbage, just say factually like this part is inaccurate. And I'm trying to peruse through the comments, but like, it's easy to say that this is garbage. To me, it sounds logical. If you think
the
he's
chart
wrong,
is actually
he could
more
be
on
wrong.
point than I think a lot of people want to admit, and I think especially women, because for a lot of women to admit that this chart is probably dead on balls means that everything that they know or everything that they have been taught over the course of their lives is wrong. That's a hard thing for a lot of people to understand. Men, women, otherwise, it doesn't matter. But I think this chart, as I'm listening to him, as I'm looking at this, again, from a pure logical, mathematical perspective, and that's all I look at is the math. It's more right than you'd care to admit.
And I'll tell you, you know what? Maybe after you see his breakdown of how women think, you'll be in a better position to sort of say, you see, this is where we see that he's wrong, or maybe you'll think more that he's right. You know, so Jackal says, I miss the good old days before HIV pills because the virus used to just call excuse. Master Vaughn says, any chance you keep up with Stuttering John? Would be cool to hear you analyze the legal drama every time John threatens to sue people or strike. I don't know who that is. So is that the guy from Howard Stern, Stuttering John?
I feel like I know that name, but I can't place it.
Patiana's throwaway says, what hypocrisy. Men don't want women to sleep around, but sleep with women they never marry, ruining them in the eyes of other men. Give me a break. That doesn't mean it's not true.
Exactly.
You know, you might think that this is not fair. And I'm not disagreeing with you about the lack of fairness, but that doesn't mean it's not true.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's human nature we're discussing, Joe. I mean, this is not, we're not making commentary on, like you said, what's right or wrong. This is what is.
Right. It's not a matter of saying, yeah, high five, you go, men. It's a matter of just like, okay, if this is the reality that we're dealing with here, you sort of need to, sort of adjust what your perspective is on things, if it's accurate, to the extent that it's accurate.
Yeah.
Just mistakes. We usually wish we hadn't done this. It might be related to alcohol, or maybe it's been a really long time. But if there's ever any kind of contact here, it's called sweepers, as in under the rug, because we don't want anyone to know about it. So if a guy has ever had any level of a relationship with you and tried to hide you and not answer the phone and disappeared and everything, that's where you were. And you need to not be there because it's pretty uncomfortable. So for women, it's obviously a lot more complicated because women have two sets of criteria that they judge men on. One of them is good guy stuff and one of them is bad boy stuff. Good guy stuff, the level of good guy things that you have, which is, of course, how much you're investing in her. Is it enough for her? Are you presentable? Does that make you look good? That's for women, looks is broken down into presentable and face and body and height and voice. So men have that both in one thing, but women have looks separate. So if you're a really, physically unattractive guy, but you're very well put together and you're giving a woman a lot of investment, then you would have a really high good guy score and a very low bad boy score.
I just want to say, if you look at this, looking at the chart real quick, I want people to just understand. When I talk about I observe things on a mathematical basis, let me make this simple. Look at the chart. This guy is dead on. There are 3 blocks on the male side of how we, or his perception of how we evaluate women. On the women's side of the chart, there are 12 blocks.
Yes.
There are literally 4 times as many blocks on the female side of this chart as the male side. Yep. And that is dead on true.
Yeah.
And look, I have had conversations with female psychiatrists on this matter as a point of study, as a financial planner. This is true. Men and women process information extraordinarily differently. And this chart, like I said, 3 blocks on the guy side, 12 blocks on the women's side. This is so perfect. And all you need to see is this image and realize that as to how different things are. That's it.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something. Look, before I met Lady Lawgic, I went out with a lot of girls. Now, it's not the same type of dating that you're accustomed to. They were all blind dates. They weren't like physical relationships. But I definitely, I encountered enough women. I went out with over 80 women. Okay. and I spent a lot of time focusing on exactly what women were looking for.
Joe
so
was a
that-
man whore. Just we're going there. So
And it was all for purpose of marriage. But I spent a lot of time fixating on what would draw women in. Like I really did. I spent a lot of time, and I recognized that there's a need for the good guy and the bad boy. Like I recognized that was like that you cannot simply be one. If you are one, you're going to be written off either, like he says, either friend zone or just like too dangerous to be worth, like too lacking in seriousness to be worth their time and attention. So yeah, I've lived this for a period of my life, a long time ago, but it was true even 30 years ago.
And thinks you are a good guy is going to be the amount of investment that you're giving her compared to what she wants, the amount that you make her look good when you're seen together in public, because that's going to push you above the public line. And then this is important. Men subtract other men from their valuation of women, and women subtract other women from their valuation of men in the good guy zone. But women will very often keep going back to a bad boy that has a lot of girls, or a situationship with a guy who has a lot of girls. Women generally do not subtract other women from the bad boy score. They take other women from the good guy score because that's going to take away your investment in her. And over here,
So
having other women...
if he's busy with a lot of women, so in that case, he doesn't have time for you. So that's taking away from the level of investment that he has in you. And it's also a reflection of the fact that he's not willing to invest in you, because I think that it's not just time, but it's also if his focus is on some other girls. So in that case, that's eating
the
away.
breakdown here, Joe, is this: women, and this is true, women are more willing to compete against other women for the same man than men are to compete against each other for the same woman. Men are more apt to just fuck it, move on, move to the next candidate. Women, because women inherently are, and again, I don't mean this as an insult, ladies, this is just human nature. Women tend to be more jealous, and they tend to covet that more from that standpoint, because it's like, and again, I say
why
this.
is he not giving me the attention? So they sort of want to fight for it. They sort of want to fight for it.
My wife works with a lot of younger teachers at her music school and other things. I see this all the time. Like, they turn over boyfriends like they're fucking candy, and it's because, oh well, this didn't work out, that didn't work. The guys don't care. The women are the ones that are like, they get jealous of this, they get jealous of that, and they're incompetent. They feel like they're in competition with other women. The guys don't feel this way.
Yeah.
This chart again is accurate.
Yeah. I want to acknowledge Nicola and the 5 good Lawgic memberships. God bless you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. 5 new members of the following. Well done, Nicola.
Does not take away your investment in her, because it's all based in excitement and physical things. And then finally, of course, women have the galaxy, and that's many little things that each individual woman values separately, which is the male version is the cabinet. In here, a woman might have like being good with kids, or liking pets, or having the same hobbies in common, or wearing a particular kind of shirt. There's lots and lots of little details in here that don't quite fit into anything else. It's just what fits with her life, what matches with her experience and with her feelings. And it's difficult to really predict what that's going to be. It's very individual for everybody. And this is very individual for everybody too, but this only matters a little bit. And this, if you have what a woman wants in here, it can give you a few points. Like, if you're not particularly presentable, but you're okay, and you don't have a lot to invest, but you're okay, and you have a load of things in common with her, it can boost you up a few points on the good guy score. Again, not the bad boy score. So all of those things in the good guy score, they measure how much the woman trusts you to be able to be there for her and make her look good and have a very public relationship, very public. The more you are a good guy, the safer that she will feel going out with you and being seen with you in the friend zone, husband zone, or the Prince Charming zone. But again, if you have only good guy traits, she's not going to like you enough for any of these zones. You have to have some bad boy traits. And it could be just looking good. That's enough for some women. It can be, there are some guys who don't look that good, but they're very, very smooth again. And they have experience with women, and women like it when they know you have experience with women. If you are very dominant, if you're good at something like a sport, if you're the head of your social group, if you're the boss at a job, like if she works somewhere and her boss is very, very dominant over other people, that's going to sort of trigger something in there. It triggers something in the bad boy continuum. Men who are very confident in themselves. Dark triad traits also appears here.
That's how I got
Dark
my
triad
wife.
traits are linked to
yeah?
power.
Yeah.
And one of the
Dominance, or that you were like the CEO?
Let's see. Dominance, power, confidence. I guess you could throw. Look, women want men who are traditional men.
Yes.
That exhibit testosterone, that manly qualities. I was going to make a joke here, like they want the bad boy thing. I'm like, that's how I got my wife. I was. Look, it was. Usually I have the Sig Sauer hat on, but that's a Sig P229. That's the Navy SEAL gun, and the 226. So, but the point is that, look, this is what women are attracted to, and I'm not like sitting here going, "Oh, I planned this out." No. I grew up like Joe, probably you did, like most guys did. Those of us who were Gen Xers that grew up in the 70s and the 80s, you know, and it was like we were boys.
Yeah.
We learned to be boys, and we grew up to be men. And lo and behold, surprisingly, Joe, I can't believe this, but real women were attracted to us as real men. It's like, but this chart is exactly what exhibits.
It's so
this is how women think. That hasn't changed. The problem is the men are not feeding into these charts anymore, thanks to feminism. It have fucked it all up.
And this is I think this can help men understand exactly, like, what areas they can work on. One of the things he mentions in a different video, by the way, is if you're a dude and you want to get girls, easiest thing you can do is learn how to play a musical instrument. He goes on and on about like how women are so drawn.
And my wife's a professional musician. Yes, exactly. I can tell you. And I was a kid that I got on stage. I would sing. I did Broadway. I did musical theater. I played piano. But I mean, even still, I think it's just the aspect of exhibiting the qualities of traditional manhood, being the leader, the dominance, the confidence.
And it plays into the dominance, confidence, smoothness,
especially the confidence. That's the big thing missing these days.
Oh yeah.
Beta males don't go down that road. That's the problem.
I'll tell you something. This daughter of mine who just got engaged, there was a guy that she went out with a few times, and the one thing that I think bothered her most was that he was lacking in confidence. This guy who she's engaged to was easily the most confident one out of all of them. Like he just came in, and he wasn't scared of meeting me. He wasn't scared of, he just presented like someone who can handle himself in a situation, and that's what every woman is going to look for, because you just want to feel that that whatever situation comes down the road, that it's not going to phase them and throw them. So
ways that power is most easily accrued for men is by being kind of brutal to other people and using them and tricking them, and it can get pretty dark. That's why it's called that. But it does result in men getting more power and more money and more status, and all of those things are attractive to women. Again, different women value different things differently, and you can have no looks at all but very high masculinity, and women will like you like this. Women are very different from men in that way. If a woman is really unattractive but has a great personality, we generally will not say, well, her personality is worth enough to get up here. You have to have at least a bare minimum of looks for men. But for women, I want you to Google Henry Kissinger. He is not an attractive man, but he was sleeping with supermodels because he was very, very powerful on a global scale.
This is true.
Masculinity
just passed away at the age of 100.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can have a maximum bad boy score if you have super high masculinity, if you have super high power and no looks. It's different. So the way that a woman feels about your two scores, she's going to evaluate what are your good guy traits and what are your bad boy traits, and she's going to evaluate how she feels about you. That creates, I split it up into 9 zones, and I just used terms that are familiar in our culture to make it easier for people to understand. We'll start with nothing. If you have no bad boy traits at all and no good guy traits, you're a ghost. Women don't even recognize you. If you're the mailman, you're just the thing that makes the mail come, unless you're very attractive, and then you would jump up to here. Let's start by going up the good guy scale. If you are less than half good, if you're below this public line and you have no bad boy traits at all and you're less than half good and you're pursuing a woman, she's going to say, ew, you're a creep. You're not attractive to me at all, and you're not very good.
This is so perfect.
I don't want to be around you.
It's really crazy, right?
It's dead on.
Unbelievable. And that's someone, yeah, like, why are you chasing me? I don't want to have anything to do with you. You're not even like that good a person. You're a creep.
Go a little bit above half. Women will have a gold digger relationship with men in this area if they have a lot of money. If they don't have a lot of money, it's kind of like ick. It's kind of just, okay, this guy's pretty nice, but I don't feel anything for him. And so it's just kind of gross and leave me alone. It's similar to creep, but a creep is like someone who you would not want to talk to at all, someone who you would want gone from your life, but you'd be aware of him. You would not be aware of the ghost. Ick would be something like, well, he has to be around and I have to tolerate him, but I don't really want to think about, starting a relationship with this guy, unless he has tons of money. And then some women will put up with it. Again, some women, everyone is different. If you max out your good guy score and you have no bad boy points at all, you're going to be in the friend zone. Women.
That's Friends. That's Ross from the beginning of Friends, right? Like, it's like he has no bad boy to him at all, but he's like basically he's friend zoned.
Will go out in public with you. They will let you buy them things. That if you're very, very good to her and you're treating her with investment and you're making her look good and you don't have other women. I had a video recently with a girl talking about having a guy in the friend zone and he got a girlfriend, and so she lost her investment. And she said, well, that makes me feel bad. But then again, it wasn't a relationship, so I can't say anything. She was just talking about losing free investment from a guy who she didn't like at all. So this is not somewhere you want to be. And this is something that a lot of men have trouble with. They be as nice as they can be, and they go, why don't women want me? And it's because women are not attracted to this. It's what makes them feel
so
safe.
good. This is so spot on.
It's what makes them want to spend time around you. It's what makes them trust you. It's what makes them want to be seen with you or build a future with you, but it's not what makes them attracted to you. This confuses men because when women give us what we value, they shoot right up this chart. And we wonder why that doesn't work for us. And the reason is that you either are not good looking and God forbid that you have unfixable things about you, but hopefully you can lose some weight and gain some muscle and start dressing better and become more masculine. If there are things that you cannot fix about your body, you have to at least be more manly. And then that's going to give you some degree of points. So if you are maximum,
this is true,
and you become more manly by working on yourself.
And
one of my
should be
best
happy
friends
that he's walking men through this. So that men
one
can
of my
actually figure
best
this out.
friends in high school, like, dude was, we still get along to this day, not an attractive guy at all. One of the most Irish sons of bitches you'll ever meet in your life. Really was not that good looking. But he would routinely score with all the women. Why? Because his masculinity, his dominance, his confidence was like off the scale, and still is to this day.
Right.
And it's like, he is not a good looking dude. It never was a good looking dude. And it was like, but that's what this is so on point. It's not even funny. This is amazing. I love this.
Sherry says it's not jealousy, it's that men can simply wash themselves off in the sink. Not so easy for women. There's a lot more work for the women to on maintain their looks. That's for sure.
Take care of your face and your body and become more of a man, you might move into the husband zone. If you do a fantastic job, you could move into the Prince Charming zone, but this is very, 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 very rare. So
I'm happy in the husband zone. I'm good with that.
If you are medium bad boy, if you're medium bad, if you're medium attractive or medium masculine, kind of manly, but not really, and you have no good guy things at all, sometimes you will be women's drunken mistake. This is kind of like the female. He might make a mistake and she'll feel like, well, you aren't really a bad boy. You don't really do it for me. We shouldn't have done this. I thought that you were going to be more exciting, but you're really lukewarm and you're not nice at all. If you are medium bad and you're, again, under half good, this is a bad situationship. This range is situationships, and this one is settling, because at this point, this can become permanent in public. But in all three of these are where the man will not commit, and this is where the woman will not commit. So they're all situationships, but different kinds. This one, again, the bad situationship is with a guy who's half attractive or half masculine, half what women, get excited about, but not nice enough to settle for, and not even close to nice enough to be in the husband zone. Not giving enough investment, not presentable enough, kind of dumpy, not doing great in life. That's a bad situationship where the woman will not turn the key. If you go above the half point of the good guy traits, then you get to the settling point. And at a certain point, women will settle. And colors
yes,
for the
they will.
represent the emotions. Settling is kind of dusty. It's like an old pillowcase that hasn't been washed in a while. It's just like, it works, I guess. It's not
After
very
25 years, if my wife was here right now, she'd go, yeah, that's me. I'm in the settling zone.
I'm in the
That's how you're
settling
here."
zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my wife would probably say too.
And then if you work really, really hard to bring all of these to her, if you have everything in common with her and you're supporting her really well and you make her look really good, you can be in the husband zone. And the way that women will think of you in the husband zone is, well, he's not that much of a man. He's not super attractive and he's not super manly, but man, does he ever take care of me? And that's my husband and I'm proud of him. So then let's do the last column. The last column has both of the kinds of relationships that women like the most. Women do like friend zone relationships, but they're not nearly as fun as bad boy relationships, not even close. And they're not as good as Prince Charming relationships, which are, again, very, very rare. The Prince Charming relationship is the ideal long-term, and the bad boy relationship is the ideal short-term, which is a really difficult thing about women. This is one of the most difficult things I've ever learned about women, that even if you manage to be Prince Charming, the bad boy is still more exciting because it is so bad and so short-term. It's paradoxical that being good can make her less excited for you. She'll be more excited for a bad boy than she will be for Prince Charming, because there's something about stability that kind of dilutes this. And this is the most healthy kind of relationship, when the man is here for the woman and the woman is here for the man. But the way that society is going lately, and the way that it typically goes in human history, when a guy gets this valuable, he ends up having multiple women, and then they're all in a harem, which is a kind of situationship, which usually the women think is either a good or a mid-level situationship. It's either one where they go out with the guy and they're seen with him and everyone knows he has multiple women, or it's just a quiet thing where they go over his place.
I'm astonished by the level of thought that he's put into this.
You can see,
and like he really spent a lot of time mapping this out, not just on the chart, not just mathematically, but in his discussion with it. And let me tell you what, I have not heard him say one thing yet that I could refute, that I could argue with. Yeah. This is brilliantly laid out, and I'm sitting here thinking right now that I was joking the other night. I did a members show last night, Joe, and I'm like, it's been a while since I did, and my audience has belovingly coined this as Valiance Vixens when I do like the all ladies show with the guests. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, I have got to do a Valiance Vixens live show episode. We haven't done one in a couple of months with this video because
I'll share the
I
link with you,
cannot wait. I will invite you to this. You come hang out with us, but I'm going to get the ladies in here because this would be a shitload of fun.
I'll share the link with you here so you
Yeah.
can like sort of store it away
Send
for
it to
yourself.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's really smart guy, and he spent a lot of time breaking this down. I shared it in the private chat with you.
I got it.
So-
I got it.
Yeah, it's I think that there's a lot to break down there, and as far as like why it is that women have that need for a bed. And I think that the danger element, but I think part of it we'd be looking on an evolutionary type of thing is that it is sort of the power and display and that strength, I think, is something that feeds into that the hunger to be protected. And they feel like this is someone who can basically kick anybody's ass or something of that nature, has that capacity, which gives them a feeling of protection that on a primal level, I think women are all craving in one way or another. Now it can be manifested in different ways, but I think that that's essentially why it is that women have such a more complex diagram as to what, how they categorize, whereas men are far more simple as far as saying, is this someone who, I'm able to like, is someone who I like looking at and want and can help fulfill my needs. And yeah. Rest of Town says, I like that he made this chart no numbers so women can understand. That's not nice. Sherry says, it's not the bad boy that attracts women. It's going against what's expected. This guy misses the point. I don't think that's actually, I think you're mistaken, Sherry. I think you're mistaken. I disagree with you. I think that I mean, whether you want to label it bad boy or give it a different label, the point is that these are things that are inconsistent with your classic good. That is how society tends to refer to the bad boy, the popularity of the bad boy. So I can understand why he used that term. And those are character traits which basically are likely to lure women in on a primal level, whether it's looks or dominance or power. These are things that tend to draw women in, where they basically feel like, that's the guy that's going to be fun.
I think he's just made the chart based on observational science, and I think he's got a lot of very good solid points there. I really do.
Yeah. Now that I shared him with you, I think you're gonna spend a lot of time. You're gonna spend a lot of time going through some of his videos because that's the overarching one. But there's so many different videos like the short that I showed you from him where he's really great. So yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up over here. I'm feeling like actually a little tired. So I want to thank you all. Let me just pimp you out here for a second. If you don't know Valiant Renegade by now,
pimp me out.
I'm not doing it because I have to. I'm doing it for my fans so they can find you. So I'm going to tell you that his name is Valiant Renegade. And I mean, the one thing that I didn't spend as much time talking about as I planned on when I started this show was the idea as to whether or not we need friends. And that was really where I started this whole thing down, when I was breaking down their perspective on it. And before I let you go, I'm going to ask you this. Do you think that someone who has a family that they're raising, do you think that they have a need for friends in the traditional sense?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's always a profound sense and need for friendship, family, and community. I think it all goes together, especially when raising a family. I mean, I'm not one of these people that thinks it takes a village like Hillary Clinton, but look, it takes a family, but I think there's important adjuncts to that, to where, yes, I mean, having strong relationships with other people, other friends, and maybe some of that's jaded being down here in New Orleans. We had a family funeral today. My wife, or my mother's Oldest friend from 50 years ago. They went to nursing school together in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't actually a blood relative, but down here in Louisiana, that doesn't matter. You know, like we call people like that aunt. That was my aunt that we buried today.
But that's family. That's not friend.
Well, no, it's friend in the sense she was not a blood relative, but she was a friend in the sense that she was such a close friend to my mother and to our family for so long.
Right.
She was like family. So that's what I've been getting at there. So yeah, there's different distinctions, I guess, from that perspective.
Well, let me hone in on that a little bit for a moment. Mm-hmm. In the last month, how many hours would you say you spent with friends?
Like in person?
Yeah. Like I consider you a friend, but I've never met you. And frankly, and let's be real for a second, okay? And it's not anything against you as individually. What I'm saying is, if you and I never like saw each other online for the next 6 months, it's not like you'd be like, you might think to yourself, oh, I hope he's okay, but it's not like you would ever think, oh, I'm going to pick up the phone and call Joe. You know what I'm saying? It's not the nature of our relationship. It's like, so I happily qualify you as a friend. But that's not really when people would traditionally say friend. That's not what people really meant when they were using that term, right?
Yeah.
So my question is, so I'm using the traditional term for friend. How many hours of the last month do you think you spent with a friend?
I would probably say with a friend. There wasn't a family, like not an actual family member, right?
Not an actual family member.
Not an actual family member. Yeah. So I would say with a friend, probably in the last month, I would say 5 to 10 hours.
That's a lot.
Somewhere in there.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Just, I mean, when I say spent with, I'm including talking on the phone, catching up.
Yeah. I count that.
You know, hitting lunch or something like that, or some damn thing, or whatever. I know it's tough these days, and especially, and it's different for, guys at our stage in life because we're dealing with our actual family. Like I spent 24 hours on the sofa over Thanksgiving break with my oldest daughter who came back into college, who said, Dad, when I come home, can we sit on the couch and catch up on all these anime shows? And I'm like, yes. So I mean, that's where I'm spending most of my time,
that, and that makes you happy.
Absolutely, yeah.
And what I'm saying is, I think for a lot of people in our circumstance, we find this the type of happiness that we would find from spending time with friends sort of gets supplanted by happiness we spend in spending time with our family.
Exactly.
But it's not. So I don't think you need to have the same type of friendships when you reach that stage of life that you have your family around you, especially if you're the hub of that, which as a father you're likely to be in a healthy family. So it's really not that sense of need for connection. You sort of finding that and fulfilling the role of being a father or a husband. So in that sense, I think that the need is not nearly as great. And at a certain point, even if you don't end up spending 5 hours a month and you spend, 20 minutes a month, or you even went months without it. Like this hit home really when I was having this party for my friends to celebrate the engagement. That was like, wow, I haven't seen like my friends in like 6 months. I still feel very close to them, but it's like, that's okay. Like I don't feel any less about them, but you don't have that same need to be around friends. And I don't pick up the phone and call them or anything like that. But it's like, I know that like, hey, they're genuinely happy for me. If they had something like this, I'd be genuinely happy for them. And if I did need them for something, that they would be there. You know what I'm saying? So in that sense, but it's really not the same thing as like when I was growing up and I'd be like, no, I need to like hang out with my friends. I haven't seen them in a couple of weeks, where you sort of feel that need for a bond because you don't have that role in your own family. I don't know. So that was basically what I was working toward, I think. But yeah. Anyway, I thank you all for joining. Link for Valiant Renegade is down below in the description. I urge you to click it, hit subscribe. You're going to thank me for it. It's not just because he has an awesome speaking voice, but what comes out of his mouth is going to make you think, and it's going to make you realize, make you look at the world in a whole new way. And some of the videos he drops is just chef's kiss. Unbelievable. So I thank you for popping in here and hanging out with me this evening. You see, my new friend, one of my newer friends. One day I do want to meet you, because I think that it does change the nature of the relationship when you actually sit and have a drink with a guy, and it just feels like the person becomes far more real to you. And I think that's a.
I tell you what, the next time, and the last several trips that she's done, I haven't made it to, but I will do everything I can to try to, the next time Mrs. Renegade goes to New York, because she does love to take her students up there. They do trips every couple of years, and they go up there to do music conferences, like choral conferences. They go see Broadway shows, because my wife's a music teacher. So she does go up there. She's been up to New York in the last 10 years, probably at least 4 times. So if she plans a next trip, if she goes up there, I will hit you up, and I will do my best to join her on that next trip. So
awesome.
You and I can go.
I'll introduce you to Ron,
and
Coleman,
we'll get
too.
Ron there too. Yeah, I'll hit Ron up as well. Yeah.
All right. Well, I thank you all for joining. God willing, I'll be back here tomorrow night. Till then, I hope you all have a phenomenal weekend. And as always, I say, be happy and eat the bugs. Godspeed.